Hello everyone and welcome to Primitive Videos. My name is Nana Bidu. Here I bring you nothing but trends with regards to social, political, entertainment and sports. If this is your first time of chancing on my channel, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell and like it. Today I'm going to be talking to you about Ghana's economy as against China's economy. What China seems to be doing in the past 4 decades that has brought about their immense development, while Ghana still hovers around its lagging economy and noted for underdeveloped country, or for much of a better word, developing country. All right, so I've chanced on the news on modern Ghana and we're going to be doing a little read. All right, so let's hit it straight on the head. So modern Ghana, China's 50-year rapid development, which has left Ghana behind 65 years after independence. Let's get going. China was an agrarian nation with low levels of productivity, foreign capital dominance, the lowest levels of consumption in the entire world, and a sizable labor force. A little portion of the production was made up of industry output. However, it's fascinating to see how this country has quickly risen to be in its position as a global leader, despite the fact that the great majority of businesses only had basic equipment and that the villages were controlled by a small semi-natural economy. The Chinese government had demonstrated to the world, and particularly to African leaders, that a country's ability to develop depends less on its access to resources like gold, diamonds, oil, timber, bauxite, and valuable agricultural products, but more on its ability to exercise wise and effective leadership. China would not only be as powerful as they are, but it would also conquer the world and show that it is a country that should not be taken lightly. It's unfortunate that even though the Chinese authorities fight corruption with severe ways to create a booming economy, and today has eventually replaced the West as the colonial power in Africa, politicians engage in corrupt behavior with ineptitude to the detriment of their country. Africa is a name for a continent, but it has also other connotations, such as a place where the politicians are corrupt, ineffective, and lazy. That's what people say. That's not my opinion, but there are a few things to take into account. Ghana abandoned Kwame Nkrumah's vision by letting businesses that could have boosted the economy be wasted, whereas China has carried out the ambition and vision of its former leaders to build a country and become a global superpower. From the late 1970s to the late 1990s, Deng Xiaoping was the most influential person in the People's Republic of China. He oversaw changes that resulted in a rapidly expanding economy, rising living standards, closer ties to the global economy, as well as significantly increased freedoms for individuals and groups. Consider Ghana as an example. It became independent on March 6, 1957, making it 66 years old the next month. However, due to human error, advancement has been extremely slow. The workforce population is essential to a flourishing economy. However, following the overthrow of the Kwame Nkrumah's regime in 1966, succeeding administrations neglected the majority of the factories supporting the nation's economy. That was the beginning of Ghana's underdevelopment. The second human factor is corruption, which is not only present in Ghana, but has also spread like a wildfire and has taken impact on the infrastructure of the nation. Ghanaians can now see how the country has lost billions due to corruption and ineffective leadership, resulting in severe man-made disasters across the board, despite the fact that, in contrast to China, the leadership that chose a path towards socialism nationalized industrial enterprises and established cooperatives in rural areas. My country do same. China was one of the countries that battled corruption, and what it did was to put in measures to curb that aspect of the factor that contributes to the lagging economy. China instituted a measure that would punish people who are found culprit of embezzling state funds, engage in an act of corruption. They killed them live in front of their family members. And that is how they combated the act of corruption. What happens to our place? What happens to where we live as Ghana? What happens to our country? Ghana Audit Service must have an authority and not a service. It cannot go all the way to institutions, public institutions, conduct a report, and all they can do is just to put out a recommendation. Nothing is done about it. Well, the Constitution mandates him to put it before the Attorney General for prosecution. But trust you me, who appoint an Attorney General? It is the sole power of the President, the ruling government. If their people are found culprits of people trying to embezzle funds, all you know, it is a system of loot and share. a system that is created for people to amass wealth for themselves. And political avenues, regimes have become so centered on self-individualism, so selfish, and instead of looking forward for a greater goal of the nation, they look at party first and the country last. Nobody has been prosecuted in Ghana as far as the Auditors General report is concerned. Nobody. Yet every year publications comes out and people loot money, people siphon money, people share money among themselves and they amount wealth for themselves, and absolutely nothing is done about it. They go into state cafes, steal taxpayers' money, monies that are supposed to be used for development of roads, access to potable water, school, healthcare, and what have you. People sit on it and exhibit a gross ineptitude, sleeping on the job. Whose work is it to check that one is prosecuted for an action of embezzling state funds? Corruption. Let's continue reading. The People's Political Consultative Conference's initial session began on September 21, 1949 in Beijing with representatives from all democratic parties and organizations. The Communist Party of China presided over the meeting, and on September 30, the conference chose Mao Zedong to lead the Central People's Government of the Republic of China, while on October 1, 1949, the People's Republic of China was officially established. On September 9, 1976, Mao Zedong passed away, which aggravated the political conflict within the country, and the extreme supporters of Mao were detained. Deng Xiaoping assumed control of the party and the government in 1978, instituted the 4 modernizations agenda, which called for changes in industrial, agriculture, culture, and military armament sectors, and serious reforms were implemented in Ghana. We need a reform. We need an economic reform in Ghana. We need an agenda, a national agenda, and not party manifestos. Manifestos that are parties-focused visions. That is not what we need in Ghana. We need a national development agenda, an agenda that will institute progressiveness, successiveness. That's what we need in Ghana. An agenda that a political party will come to power, leave power, and another government that takes over continues with the project and do away with this rotten project in the bushes, taxpayers' monies that are used for construction of projects. When not completed and the government leaves power, it is left in the bushes to rot. How do we develop a country with this? We need an agenda that foresees continuation of projects, foresees an overview of what we really want as a country. We are developing a nation and not a political party. We need an agenda. We need reforms. China had a reform, and the reforms were just 4 modernization agendas, concentrating on their industry, agriculture, culture, and military armament. We need a national agenda in Ghana. They changed dramatically the country's appearance, and reforms started in agriculture. A plot of land was given to each yard on a long-term lease once cooperatives were disbanded. In the industrial sector, businesses received freedom and market relationships grew. Private and foreign businesses have started to appear, and gradually more foreign capital started to flow into China. As a result, the industry had gone by the term of the 20th century. In China, exports had started to succeed abroad. We can do same in Ghana. We can still do agriculture in Ghana. We need government sustainable projects that will initiate and institute agrarian sectors projects. If a young man who has come out of school can be employed by a state farm and pay them, why wouldn't they do? Increasingly rising unemployment rates, and the government tells its people, its youth, to find jobs for themselves. Why is the avenue to find if you want to establish any business in Ghana? The stress involved, even the money factor. Elsewhere in other countries, all you need is the idea. Here, the source of funds is really a major problem. No tax waiving whatsoever. Once you start a business, GRB on you to pay taxes. But when foreigners come into the country, they are giving tax exemptions for a number of years so they can operate. Are we harming ourselves? Is there a deliberate effort to impoverish the citizens? This is so sad. It is so devastating to see the deplorable state of Ghana's economy lagging each and every time. Who are those involved? Who are those whose job it is to seek for progress for a country? Who are those institutions, agencies that must put in place structures, measures, systems that will work for the country. The systems must work. The deplorable and shamble, porous nature of our systems is so devastating. We have a jury of ineptitudes sleeping on the job. Ghost names all over in government payrolls. How does ghost names appear in government payrolls? If it's not a human error, our institutions must work. Ghana must work. Leaders we have put in place to see to it that the country is going forward must be up and running on their job. They must not be sleeping on the job and concentrate on their selfish gains and selfish interests. They travel out of the country and they see what others are doing in other countries. Why can't they do the same? China has started exporting. We export things here in Ghana. We export our natural resources, the gold, bauxite, cocoa, rubber, cotton, timber, oil, what have you. We export them in its raw state. How does the country benefit from it? How do you export natural resources in its raw state to a developed country? They refine it, bring the goods back to you, and then you buy. What profit margin would you accrue out of this sort of transaction? The rapid growth and penetration of Chinese goods around the world, including US, had a profound impact on the US market. At that time, the American government accused China had flooded the market with low-quality goods. Many people outside of China discovered that their products are not only inexpensive, but also durable. With such a large population, China's cultural industry flourished, producing food and raising the standard of living for a sizable portion of the country's citizens. Agriculture. Our most agriculture-known areas have deplorable states of roads. They don't have potable water. They don't have electricity, lack of healthcare facilities, and even schools is a problem. What is the motivation for agriculture producing areas to produce more? Even if they produce, the goods are left to rot in the farms. Why? Because there are no mechanisms in place to bring the goods from wherever they produce it to the market. Who is to do what in this country? Just 4 decades ago, a country like China had a severely underdeveloped, lagging economy. But as a result of the economic changes that have liberalized the country's economy throughout the years, it is believed that China has experienced an economic miracle. Over the past 30 years, the economy has grown at an astounding and extraordinary rate, with average GDP growth rate of 10% and a per capita growth rate of 9%. The world's economies are today dominated by China's economy. Let's examine how this nation was able to attain such results, the causes of the economic miracle, and the circumstances that prevailed before it. In the late 1980s, the Chinese economic miracle started to materialize. The outcomes of these changes have had a qualitative impact of everyday person's life. The rate of unemployment fell and the retail sales tripled. When compared to 1978, the volume of international trade surged fourfold by 1987. Foreign investments worth billions of dollars were recruited, and by 1989, there were 19,000 joint enterprises. We can do same in Ghana. The cartel of party first must stop. The cartel of gross ineptitude must stop. The cartel of put and share must stop. The cartel of family and friends must stop. The cartel of selfishness must stop. The country must go forward. We all must join hands together as youth. Arise, Ghana youth, for your country. The nation demands on your devotion. Let us all unite. We all must come together and put our leaders into accountability. Their toes, and make sure they do what they ought to do. There are few people who are doing extremely well. Alex Afenomaken, salute you, boss. Getting people employment, setting people up businesses, getting people work to do, developing the community. What is not in his constituency? Courts, schools, university, secondary schools, municipal hospitals, prison service, fire service, vocational schools, radio station. What is not in his constituency? Everyone in authority can equally do the same. Everyone who has been given a mandate to lead the people can equally do the same. The country must work. Numerous scholars who have studied the phenomenon of China's economic miracle have put forward the following reasons for the economic recovery. 1. The state's effective role in economic reform. The nation's administration system effectively handled the difficulties of economic modernization at all stages of the changes, reforms, policies, structures, systems must work in this country. Opinion leaders, agencies, institutions, authorities, everybody must be put on their toes to see to it that what is deemed of every citizen of Ghana is actualized. 2. Considerable labor resources on the China labor market. Demand is almost always greater than supply. This allows you to keep your salaries low while maintaining high productivity. We can do same. We can have a rotation system. If the government sectors are full up, we can have a shift system for the work, and it will increase productivity regardless. If we have a shift system that will let people come and work for certain hours and let another people come and continue for other hours, it will go a long way to help the country. And that is what most developed countries have done, which has resulted in a drastic reduction of unemployment rates in their countries. We can do this. 3. Attracting foreign investment in high-tech and China's industrial sector. We live in a country where people are taken out of the country to go steady, come back and impact the knowledge into people. They go and they don't come back. Those who comes back were taken away by a political party. And so when their party leaves power, all of them are ransacked. A new set of people are brought in to do the same thing. And when they leave power, the cycle continues. No impartation, waste of state funds and resources, and we live in this country. Nothing seems to be working. A gross shamble of our economy. 4. A development strategy focused on exports that permitted raising the economy's knowledge intensity and mastering cutting-edge technology at the expense of foreign exchange profits. We must have a strategy that is focused on exports. Our natural resources shouldn't be exported in its raw state. We don't benefit from it. What volume of revenue can it generate for the states? We can refine it, and to create employment, we must have strategies towards our exports. This is a summary of China's history, and if you compare it to Ghana's over the course of its 6 decades of independence, you realize that corruption and lack of effective leadership have been the main obstacle to a country's development. Considering that Africa has the resources, African leaders should have been the ones providing financial aid to underdeveloped or impoverished countries. However, due to the lack of effective leadership and massive corruption, China currently provides financial support to African countries. It's so sad, it is so devastating to realize that the country we live in has no agenda. Party first, and nobody seems to care about the citizens, what they are going through, healthcare problems. And up until now, we have communities in Greater Accra Central Region, not even in deprived areas or remote areas, who do not have potable drinking water. Access to healthcare facilities is a problem. Schools is a problem. What seems to be working in this country? High rates of unemployment, persistent rise in prices of goods and services, poor road network, lack of accessible source of funds to start up a business. So crazy, like it's in a jungle. Like the winner takes all. If you belong to that jury of people, then you are good to go. If nobody knows you, you lag behind. It shouldn't be so. We are developing a nation and not a political party. It's about time the youth must be angry. We must be angry enough. I think that we are not angry enough. We must be angry enough to put our leaders on their toe, to put in structures that will cushion the less privileged and people who want to actually make it. Why won't people be on the desert in the name of trying to go make it elsewhere? If our systems are in place, you complete school, get work to do, and find something to eat, put food on the table. Why would you go roam on the desert? Why would you travel out of the country to go and do menial jobs just to survive on it? It is so painful that our people, our leaders, travel out of the country and they see what their colleagues doing elsewhere, they do in other parts of the world, and they are not doing the same in their countries. They don't even trust in our own systems. When they forsake all sorts of diplomatic whatever treats they receive, they travel out of the country to go and seek medical care for themselves. Meanwhile, we have healthcare institutions in Ghana. Because they know how porous the system is, they don't even want to commit to themselves. We must all come together as people and demand for accountability, and demand for good works to be done, and demand for our leaders to put them on their toes to do what they ought to do. Our leaders must change their mind and provide the people with what they deem fit, so that we can curb the menace of social vices, depression, suicide, illegal traveling, and what have you in the country. The country must work. I think that in all we do, you must exude professionalism, because professionalism is doing what you ought to do even when no one is watching you. I thank you so much for watching my video.